Hey everyone, it's Rainey from Oh So Simply, and today I will be sharing a replay from a live that I recently did with Nanny on Instagram. So I will be posting that today, so we're going to watch it together, and I really hope you like it. We delve a little bit into me, more of me as a person, and my experience with childhood trauma. And as you can tell, I am not in my full recording setup and situation. And this is also taking me a little bit of time to post this week because recently, last Friday, I was snowboarding and took a pretty hard fall. I tweaked my knee, ankle, and this shoulder, and my back behind my rib, on my rib cage in the back. So I haven't actually gotten out of bed in the last 3 days. I'm doing fine now. I'm able to move a little bit and get up by myself to go to the bathroom, but I'm currently still in my bed and actually in my pajamas, but I just wanted to get this out there for you guys. So I will be posting this here on Instagram. I will also be posting it on my podcast as well. So I hope you enjoy it.
Hi everyone, Shardy here, also known as Nanny Shards. Today we are going to be talking about overcoming childhood trauma with Also Simply. Hey!
Hi.
How are you? You okay?
Yeah, how are you?
Good, I'm good. So hi everyone that's come in so far. Please, if you can do us one big favor and share this live. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, please share it to your contacts. If you are on Instagram, please share it to your contacts as well. We want as many people coming in. We want you to engage in the conversation, ask questions. So I would really love to get you all involved in this conversation because, like I said, I think it's very, very important that we speak about this topic as a child caregiver. So could you introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and just a bit about your journey.
Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Rainey. Also, during lives, I usually turn off my heaters. So if I'm sitting here like this halfway through, don't mind me. It's a little chilly in here, but I might even grab a scarf. But so I'm Rainey. I'm from Oh So Simply. I've been a nanny for 8 years now, I think, which is crazy. Time has flown. But I've been a nanny for a long time, and I don't really. I'm thinking you said introduce yourself and where you come from, but I'm well, we're gonna get into that. But basically,
But say it now.
The long story short of it is that I did have some childhood trauma when I was younger. I was raised in a really weird situation. And then I was later adopted at age 13 by my loving parents that I have now. And so they kind of helped me cope with all of the experiences and trauma that I had as a kid and shot me off into adulthood. And now I am where I am today because of them. So that's my little bit of a story. Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Oh, in a nutshell. So
for those that are curious, yes, I'm 24. Yes, I look younger than 24, and 24 is still young. I'm also fully aware of that. And yes, I am married. I get that question all the time. Yes, I'm married. I got married pretty young. I love my husband. He's amazing. He is 5 years older than me, so that kind of makes a little bit of a difference, I feel like. But anyways, just get those little questions out of the way. And yes, I live in a tiny home for Facebook and YouTube. They can kind of see one of my windows. Yes, those are all of my frequently asked questions answered.
You got the staff handbook handed out. You got all the FAQs out of the way, because I think I asked a few of those questions when I first spoke to you. And you were like, "Yeah, my husband." And I was like, "Huh? Husband?
Yeah,
husband? You look about 16. What do you mean, husband?" And you're like, "Yeah, married." I'm like, "What the Ross?" So that was good. But I think for me, what's really good is obviously I've been able to connect with you off camera and get to know you a bit more, and you've been able to share things with me, which I'm very grateful for, because you didn't have to do that. So I thought it would be really good, or we thought it would be really good to share this publicly, just because it could help a lot of people. And like you said as well, it could inspire some people. And if people have gone through what you've gone through, or are currently going through what you've been through, just, you can probably give them some help and advice on terms of how to manage it and cope and things like that. So what was one of the first things you wanted to speak about? The floor is yours.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so before we get started diving into it, I wanted to first of all quickly say, these are like my PSAs. First of
Yeah.
all, quickly say that one, there are good and bad days when you have childhood trauma or experiences, or really any kind of trauma. There are good and bad days. Like, that's just it. And normally I'm a super open person. I've always kind of been a super open person. I kind of blame my mom. She's super open, TMI queen. So because of that, I was totally excited about doing this live. And last week was a really good week for me. Yesterday was a really good day for me. This morning I woke up and I'm feeling like it's just not a super, super great day for me emotionally. So I do still want to do this live because I think it's really important, and like scheduling, like, you can't always change your whole
Can we just
life.
do a disclaimer? I gave her the option because I'm
Yeah,
very much about how you feel, right?
yeah,
If I said to her, you could cancel me last minute. If you don't feel 100%, don't do it.
yeah,
But Rainey has been very brave, says she wants to go ahead.
yeah.
So
And
we're going to
that's
keep it short
true.
and sweet, but I appreciate you even still doing this, even though
Yeah.
it's a bad day. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so it's true that she did give me the out, but part of the good and bad day situation is that sometimes even on your bad days, like if you're a mom, you get up and you mom. If you're a nanny, you go to work and you nanny. Like it doesn't matter good or bad day, you can't change your whole life around that. So it just means that you take things a little slower and you let the people around you know that it's kind of a bad day. So that's what I did before we got on the live. I just told Shada, I said, hey, today's not my best day, but like I'm still going to do it, but like it's not my best day. so
Yeah,
so if I later we will open up for some questions and Shada might ask some questions, and I just wanted to let everyone know that if I feel like I don't want to talk about it, I'm just going to say like maybe next time, I'm not going to talk
yeah,
about that right now. Um and if it's something that you really, really want to know for your personal benefit, because you're struggling with something, maybe DM me, because I do sometimes feel like I can't answer something publicly, but I can answer something a little more in depth one-on-one. So I kind of wanted to give those disclaimers before we started. But beyond that, I first thing wanted to talk about the difference between overcoming childhood trauma and coping with, or just like dealing with childhood trauma, because we had talked about the fact that we were going to do a childhood trauma live, which I'm all down for, but we didn't actually talk about the title. And then I saw the title and I was like, I didn't think about it one way or the other at first, but then I realized like I don't think you ever really overcome childhood trauma. Like you never really just like completely slough it off as like an extra layer. It's kind of always a part of you because you make life decisions based on the trauma that you experience as a child. And so, yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that really quick, mention that. And also, before I forget and get too far ahead of myself, because I tend to do that, so bear with me, people. I do a lot of back and forth talking to myself and to other people. But before we get too far ahead, I also wanted, my other disclaimer was childhood trauma is different for everyone. Trauma in general is different for everyone. Everyone has different levels of tolerance for pain, for fear, for emotional stability, mental health. Everyone is different. We're beautiful and we're different. And so my experiences, some of my personal experiences that I'll share today, some of the hypothetical experiences that I'll share today, don't compare your experience to them. In the sense that maybe something is similar and you find some benefit in something, that's awesome. But if you feel like your life experience isn't as bad as mine or as bad as the hypothetical that I use, don't belittle what experience you've had, because your experience is different than my experience. Just the way that you handle your experience is different from the way I'd handle my experience. So I don't want anyone to walk away from this feeling like they can't cry about what happened to them, because everyone can have their feelings about what happened to them, because everyone is different. So that was my other disclaimer I wanted to say before we continue. But now I'm disclaimer clear.
that's okay. That's good. And the reason, everything I do is very intentional. I deliberately put overcoming childhood trauma. And the reason why I feel I said that is because when you go through trauma, being able to talk about it is part of overcoming it or dealing with it in a way. And I didn't want to say dealing with childhood trauma. I just didn't like the sound of that. I thought overcoming to me means addressing it,
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, learning about coping mechanisms, identifying signs of trauma and things like that. So it was just more of a, maybe I don't know if it's an English American language barrier, I don't know, but it was more of just like an umbrella of everything in one, instead of saying talking about childhood trauma.
Yeah.
It's just overcoming just sounds like, oh, there's some kind of empowerment in there. And I feel like people are going to watch this back and go, oh my God, I learned so much and maybe I can cope with it, or, you know.
Yeah, it
So
does
when
give
I say
more
overcoming,
of a sense
yeah,
of like hope, which I do
yeah,
appreciate the meaning behind the word. I totally do. I just wanted to like let people
put
know
it
that
out
like
there.
it is a lifelong process too. And some
Mm-hmm.
people kind of grow up and grow out of it differently and at different rates.
Some
Because
never.
and that's true, yeah, because like for me and my experience, yeah, I'm only 24, but my childhood trauma happened in a way that I had to grow up fast, because I had a younger sibling in the same situation as me that I wanted to shield and protect from what was happening around us. And so I went into mom mode at like age 7. So for me, it was different experience, which is why I think that I'm more comfortable talking about it. And I was in counseling for a lot of years. So I'm used to talking about it. I have the words that now that I can articulate my experience with. I was given that vocabulary with counseling. And so I feel like there's that aid there, for me and my ability to
Yeah,
talk about
I
it.
can feel myself getting emotional already. I'm trying not to, because you just said something that for me was like, what? You said, you said at age 7 you felt like you had to go into mum mode. All I hear is you lost your innocence at a
Mm.
very young age. To me, that's heartbreaking. So just even hearing you say that, I'm like, and you said it just so blasé. I'm like, wow. So for me, I would love to just hear from, you know, the beginning of your lifestyle. You know, you mentioned also about being adopted, and you explained that to me. I know your situation, but obviously the public don't. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to know like your journey from
Yeah.
to.
So also, blase. Oh, sounds so fancy. That's not an American word. Um, but I will say, I'm going to be like disclaimer queen today, apparently. Another disclaimer. I do say things really passively, and it's not to belittle myself. I'm not like asking for pity. I'm not that kind of a person, but I'm also not the
Mm,
kind of person that's like, don't you pity me, don't you dare. It's like, well, if you want to pity
yeah.
me, pity me. Like, that's your choice. You know,
No,
everyone
but
has
pity
their
is just a
feelings.
human thing. It's a human
Yeah,
thing. If
it's
you
like that empathy, right?
your heart right there, you go. I'm an empath, so
Yeah,
I feel things. So it's not that I'm pitying you, because
yeah,
for me, I don't look at you as someone to pity. I look at you as someone to admire, and you're very inspiring for even sharing this. But it's just my heart is just like, that's just the way my heart
yeah.
is. But yeah.
And I appreciate it. But I was gonna say the reason I say things so passively sometimes because it is my life. It's my life
Mm,
experience, and it's just matter of fact. Because and I'm able to say it a lot more matter of fact now that I'm not in it. That's another thing that I think is really important to recognize is when you have childhood trauma, when you are in the thick of trauma of any kind, it's really hard to see past and see rationally and see logically what's going on. Um, but I'm past it, you know, like in the sense that I'm an adult. I now control my own, like I make my own decisions. I control my own environments a lot of the time. There's, of course, things out of all of our control all the time, but I have more power over what's going on around me than I did when I was a child. And so now I'm able to say things more passively. So just be warned that, yeah, I do say a lot of things like super
I
passive
know.
and matter
I've
of
seen you
fact.
do it with me in our private convos, and I'm like, wait, Rainey, go back. You just said like so, you know.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So,
The floor is yours.
but you can always know that I will say what I mean and mean what I say. So
Mm-hmm.
if I say that I'm fine, I'm genuinely fine. Because if I'm not fine, I'll say I'm not fine, and then I'll
Fine.
be
Yeah.
done. So like,
Have you always
yeah.
been that way?
No, I haven't. That was part of my counseling and part of my
Yeah.
um So like I have anxiety and depression, which I feel like is a pretty common thing to have nowadays, but
Yeah.
especially with COVID, anxiety.
Ooh.
But but that's kind of one of my coping mechanisms for that is to be able to communicate and set boundaries for myself with other people. So like just being able to let people know, because usually the people that like push your boundaries or make you uncomfortable are your loved ones that are close to you because they mean well. So then they do really dumb stuff. So then you're like, back up. So because you love them though, like one of the things I had to realize, and I was helped through counseling again, was that because in order to show them love, I have to show them patience and kindness, which is telling them, I'm not in a place to hear this right now. I need you to wait to tell me what you're going to tell me until I'm in a better mental state. Okay. And because then it shows them love instead of them telling you something that you're not ready to hear and you lashing out. That's, disaster. So I wasn't always like this. And I think too, it also, I really started working on it more actively when I got married because me and my husband have completely different communication styles. And while we both have our own history of childhood trauma, our communication styles are very different and our emotional makeup is very different. My husband is very logical. I love him to pieces, but we are so opposite. He is very logical, very matter of fact, very like, this happened?
Sounds a bit
Okay,
like
we
me.
move on. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
me.
we cry. We cry and we eat
Yeah,
cookie dough and then we move
me.
on. But I need a moment to pause and like emotionally process what's happening.
I
So
sound like your husband.
yeah,
It's me.
yeah.
It's
I'm
like,
like, so that part of him, I had to, and he's very into, like most husbands would be, and he wants to make me happy all the time. And so when I'm having a depressed day where I'm just like, blankets overhead, don't get me out of bed, I just need to cry, I need to watch The Way We Were like 75 times and just cry, okay? And he's like, no, I need to make you feel better. And he tries and he tries and he feels disappointed. And so then I just have to tell him, I don't want to be cheered up. I'm not going to be cheered up. And if you can't handle seeing me like this, I love you and I know that it's because you love me you can't handle this. So go and do something outside for a little bit or go and read a book for a little bit, but give me my space, So it's like I had to learn how to communicate that because I love him and I want our relationship to work forever. So I had to learn how to communicate that with him, which was a lot of trial and error in our first year and a half of marriage, don't get me wrong. But now we kind of, he's learning me and I'm learning him and we're learning each other better. So you just have to be able to communicate those things. So I think that's kind of how now I am the way I am because I've had to communicate those things with people over time.
perfect. So take us back to the beginning of your life.
Yes. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by comments.
Good.
Anyways,
That's all right.
so back to the beginning of when Rainey was a wee babe. I should have had cute pictures of me or something because I was a
I
cute kid.
know.
Don't get me wrong, guys.
You're still beautiful, so it doesn't matter.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll post some baby pics later, some throwbacks.
Yeah, make sure. I want to see.
But going back to me when I was little, so I'll kind of give you an overarch because 24 years is a lot to sum up in about 4 minutes. So, which is what my goal was. So basically, little Rainey was born out of wedlock. My parents, my bio parents. So also for reference, for those of you who are watching now and for later in the replay, the way that I differentiate my natural parents, the parents that physically, chemically made me, and my adoptive parents, I call my natural parents my biological parents or my bio mom and bio dad. That's just how I use, those are the phrases that I use to differentiate them in my mind. And then I call my adoptive parents my mom and dad. My adoptive history is also a little complicated because they are relatives that adopted me. But we'll get into that. But I just wanted to clarify. Bio mom and dad are the ones that chemically had me. Mom and dad are my parents, the ones that adopted me and raised me to who I am today. So, my bio parents met when they were in high school. They were horrible children. No, I'm just kidding. They were actually really good kids. But they went through their rebellious teenage phase and they had me while they were in high school. Rebellious teenage phase. And but they did it out of love, and I came out adorable, so all was well. But they didn't last very long because they were in high school. They split, and my bio dad did pass away when I was 2, which was really sad. And it was an accident, but it didn't. It made it really hard on my bio mom. So she kind of made some poor decisions, and things were not super great. And 2 years after I was born and my bio dad had died, she started dating another man and ended up having my little brother, who I absolutely adore. And he hates it when I call him my little brother because he's actually considerably larger than me physically. So he's like, stop calling me my little brother. Yeah, I'm really small. I'm 5'2". And yeah, my brother is like this linebacker. Like his shoulders are giant. Yeah, he's like, he hates that I call him little brother, but I love him and he's my little brother forever. So, but yeah, so then she had him, and afterward, her bad decisions just kind of got the best of her ultimately. And so her lifestyle started to affect us because, you know, she was bringing her work home and her bad friends home, and just like all of that was just in our house, like little bad fumes, gas fumes. And so we were around all of that. And I, from that point, started shielding my little brother because I didn't want him to experience it, because I knew that some of the things that were happening weren't good. And some of that was, you know, drugs, alcohol, multiple boyfriends, you know, like pretty normal stuff for people who are making poor decisions. And so, yeah, didn't want him to see all of that and experience that. And so I kind of just shielded him from it, and that's when
What's
I took
the age
on
difference
my
between
role.
you and your brother?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when I kind of, you know, started taking on the role as mom, which was totally fine for me at the time. Because another thing is as a child, you don't ever realize what isn't normal until you experience what is considered normal. So when I was younger, I thought that my life was normal. Like, I knew that not everybody's mom acted the way that my mom acted, but for a lot of the reason, I thought she was cool because we were so close in age, because she had me in high school, that, like, she kind of treated me like a little sister a lot of the times. And so, like, I'd be like, yeah, my mom's way cooler than your mom because, like, your mom's boring and old and, like, she doesn't know what's cool. And my mom knows what's cool because it was not that different for her age, you know?
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah.
That age difference did help our relationship when I was younger. I was really close to my bio mom when I was younger because we were so close in age. We loved the same stuff. I was like her mini me. We did have a really great relationship. And it was just some bad decisions that kind of got the best of her. And I do, looking back now, I'm able to see that her experience wasn't super great. The way that she was raised and the way that she grew up wasn't super great. And because she had me so young, like, that wasn't her fault. Like, she parented the best way she knew how. And for the way that she was to me as a mom, she was amazing. Just like looking back on her life experience and seeing how she was able to raise me for the time that she did a really good job for a long time. But there did come a point where things got a little off balance and it was no longer a good situation for me. And I was about 12 when I realized, like, I'd started going and I started having more friends. I started going out more. I was like basically a rebellious teenager at the age of 12, like partying, having the boyfriends, doing all the things at age 12, which looking back, I'm like, that's crazy. Oh, Lord, let me never have a child. But I didn't have any parents around to, like, watch me and monitor what was going on. So I could do whatever I wanted.
Where were your parents?
So my bio dad had already passed away long ago. And my bio mom, she was living her own life. So, like, she was...
You was in the house by yourself?
No, she was... We were kind of like roommates at that point. So, like, she was around and I was around, but we weren't really, like, she wasn't monitoring me. So she was around, but she was wrapped in her own, what was happening with her life. And so I was in charge of myself. Like, I could do what I wanted. Nobody was going to tell me anything
12 years
different.
old.
Yes, which was really hard because at age 13, I was adopted. At age 13, when I was adopted, my parents, love their souls. They helped me like kind of reconfigure things and learn what was normal. And I got to be a kid for a while, which was really nice. Um, but that was a rough transition because I went from nobody can tell me what to do. I live my life. You're just here to pay rent. Like, that's it, to living in a pretty traditional family set of roles where my mom was a mom and my dad was a dad, and dad went to work and then he came home and we ate dinner as a family at the table under a chandelier at the dining room table. And it was just like, this is not what I'm used to. Like, it was crazy. But so there was some growing pains where my mom wanted to strangle me multiple times. But then, I learned how to like take my place as the child in the house.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you who don't know, I am half black and half white. My bio parents were both half and half. And my adoptive parents, my mom is black and my dad is white. And so I was still raised in that like black culture of shut up and sit down.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you listen to
yeah.
what
I
you're
remember we
told.
had a chat because I remember talking to you and I was like, because I'm black, and you was like, shut up, black to you. And I was like, hold on, wait, girl, hold on. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like my mom and dad mixed, and my mom is like, and I was like, oh my god. So then after that, like we could actually talk about our black experiences. But looking at you, you don't look black, and I'm sure you've heard that many times before.
Yes.
And I did say to you at the time, I hope you don't take that offense. And you was like, no, it's fine. So yeah, I think a lot of people on the live, are you guys enjoying this? Let me know, because I feel like I'm really enjoying this, and I feel like I'm learning. Even though I know quite a lot already, I feel like I'm still learning more about you. So give me some purple love hearts if you're still here with us, guys. And remember to share this as well. So continue,
Yeah.
Rainey.
So anyways, I was raised in that kind of a household, which I adored. And my parents were also just very about getting me on track and giving me a safe place. My mom and dad, I call them my mom and dad, a little bit convoluted. Here we go, guys. Get into the nitty gritty, okay? Just bear with me. My bio dad, his mom and stepdad, okay? They are my paternal grandparents, right? Dad's mom and dad. My paternal grandparents and I were estranged from a later age. So when I was really little, I went over there all the time. And then as I got older, I would see them like maybe once a year. But during the time of sticky situation, age 12, rainy, rebellious, hot mess, got kicked out of the house. And when that happened, I called them because I knew that they had always been loving and kind to me, and they had always been there for me. Like, never really any questions asked, kind of always been there for me. So I called them and I just said, hey, I'm sitting outside. At the time, we lived in a trailer park, and I said, hey, I'm sitting outside on the sign of the trailer park. I need you to come and pick me up, okay? Like, and I was, and I'm sobbing because I just got kicked out of the house. There was a whole horrible day that was the day that I got kicked out of the house, which I'm not going into on this live, but because that's a long story and it's a lot of detail that you just don't need. But bottom line is that I got kicked out, and then I called them and they took me in, and I started slowly opening up to them about what was happening. But I never fully told them everything. As a child, I was I was slightly neglected. Like, the other thing is I don't want anyone to view my bio parents or my situation growing up as just that they were bad people, because they weren't.
No
Like,
one's
it
gonna
was a
do that.
lot of
No one's gonna do that.
circumstance.
There's no judgment here. No
Well,
judgment at all.
thank you. But I'm just also clarifying, like, there was a lot going on in their lives and my lives, and life in general is this mess. Um, but in my childhood, over the course of my childhood, I did experience neglect before. I did experience emotional trauma, mental trauma, sexual abuse. So there were things that I experienced in my childhood that I didn't open up about right away when I moved in with my parents. And they were always super understanding and loving and patient patient is super, super important, being patient, because you don't ever want to forcefully try to open a box that doesn't want to open, because it will just close tighter. And you want them to be able to release that stress, kids with trauma. And so you want it to feel like a safe space where they don't feel judged and they don't feel pressure or anxiety or stress or any kind of force, just no force, period, no force ever. You want it to feel very natural and relaxed environment for them to be able to open up. So my parents were super loving, super patient, but I did start opening up to them a little by little, and then I asked them outright if they would adopt me once I realized how crazy my life was and that it wasn't normal. And after they said yes to that, they were like, this is an expensive endeavor, but we love you. And then they started working on adopting me, and then I said, but also could you adopt my little brother? Now guys, fun fact, me and my little brother have different dads. So while I'm actually related to my parents, my brother isn't, but they still like happily, lovingly took him in, and like literally him and my dad now, their mannerisms are identical. Like people, they're like, oh man, you look so much like your dad. And it's just like a joke because I'm like, but we're adopted. Like that's not even but they are the same
It
person.
happens.
They are the same person. They walk around in the same painter, construction guy cargo pants and high-vis orange shirts. Like they're the same.
Yeah, trust me. I know that. I know that feeling. I know. I've seen that before many times. You're like, people say that about my stepdad. I'm like, he's not my real dad. And they're like, but you look alike. And I'm like, he raised me. So the certain things that I do that's like him, everyone's like, oh, you're such like your dad and stuff like that. But yeah, understand it.
Yeah. So yeah, my brother and dad are like, oh, they're the same now. But I always give props, you know, I actually haven't told him this in a while, so if you're watching, I always feel like so appreciative of my dad because he was so loving and sweet and patient with me because of my childhood sexual abuse experiences. When I first moved in, it was really hard for me to be around a man in general. It didn't matter that my dad is like this loving, amazing man. Like he's absolutely my world, like an amazing guy. It didn't matter at the time. It was just the fact that he was male. That's it, really. And that he's like tall, because my dad is 6'3", my husband is 6'2", tall guys. Anyways, but he was like giant and he's a man, and it was just like, no thanks. Like, I don't want to be around you. I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to look at me. Nothing. And he was super patient for that, because now looking back, imagine how hard that is, that you see this like broken kid and you just want to embrace them and love on them and cuddle them and like tell them like how amazing you know they are, and like that everything's going to be okay, and they don't want you to hug them. Like that would be torture. So props to him for sticking it out, because then it was funny, because then later, like sometimes still, even if I go over to visit my parents, I'll like, he'll be in his office working at his desk, and I'll just like tap him on the shoulder, and he'll push back from his desk, and I'll just sit in his lap and like start talking to him still. And he's like, girl, you grown, get off me, you heavy.
Yeah.
But he's still patient, and he's still just loving.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I love it. But so that's kind of, I guess that kind of wraps up my little life story. So from that, I just wanted to share some of my coping mechanisms for childhood trauma, because it did happen when I was young, and it happened over a long period of time. And it happened, I will say.
Do you mind us asking when it started and up to when you've come out of it, like a period of time? Or you don't have to answer that.
Yeah, so it's not that I don't want to, it's just a little hard. So let me think about it.
Fine.
Because
you don't have to answer it.
I will. I will.
Okay.
Don't worry. I will tell you if I'm not going to.
Okay.
It started, I'd probably say when I was around 6, maybe 7. And then as basically when I was adopted, at that point I was at my low right before then, which is what drove me to get kicked out of the house, was because, trigger warning, do not listen to this if you cannot handle anything. If you can't handle it, I don't even know how to say a trigger warning without triggering you. So
Yeah,
just know
I
it's coming.
don't worry. I've done this
Um,
disclaimer for triggers. So anyone that enters knows already it's a trigger zone.
okay, yeah.
So let me
So,
just put a comment there. Actually,
okay.
go on then.
So yeah, my low point was suicide attempts. And I say that openly, and I am open and honest with my friends and family, and honestly strangers, because I don't think it's something that you should be embarrassed about. I don't think it's something that you should be fearful of talking about, because it's a really important topic, and because I'm not ashamed of it. Like, everyone has low moments, and some are lower than others, and that's okay. And I don't feel embarrassed by that. I don't know. I don't feel uncomfortable or awkward about it.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
And so, but I say that because that was my personal lowest point. And thankfully, I had my loving parents that later adopted me to be there for me, to support me. And I also, I was raised believing in God. And so I also did have kind of that relationship,
Faith. Yeah.
which was really, really beneficial, because getting to my coping mechanisms, one of my primary was to do Bible reading and personal study and meditation on topics like God's love and God's forgiveness and his patience and his righteousness and vengeance. Like, that is his, and it's his right to take vengeance. That was the absolute lifesaver for me, hands down. And just knowing that, like, he sees everything, but also, like, First Peter 5:7, that he comforts, and he's the God of comfort, and, like, he's there for us, you know? So it's like, you just know those things, and it really, really puts me at ease.
Comforting.
Yeah. And for people, because I don't think that necessarily all people are religious people or Bible readers, for people that aren't, what also really helped me is journaling. Like, hands down, journaling. I still to this day journal. I have all of my journals from when I was age 7. I kept them all.
You still have them?
Yeah, I kept them all.
No way.
And I have cute little entries like, I think I'm going to date Lil Bow Wow. He's going to be my boyfriend. Like, in
I think we all had that. We all had that, literally.
Little Bow Wow, Jesse McCartney. Those are my 2 boyfriends, okay, guys? My elementary school boyfriends.
That's so cute. Oh my God.
But I do still keep all my journals, because I do like to also reflect and see how far I've come in my thinking and my forgiveness. But I do also, like, I mean, not vividly. Oh, my word. Avidly. I'm an avid journaler, bullet journaler now, but yeah, I journal, like, every day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be my feelings. Some people ask, like, when you journal, do you just, like, pour out your feelings and emotions? And I'm like, well, sometimes. But also sometimes I just put, like, my to-dos, like, my tasks and my calendar stuff. Or I put down, like, hey, today I watched this movie. It was pretty good. Like, my personal Rotten Tomatoes
I used to
ratings.
journal a lot as a child.
Yeah.
As a child, I did.
One of the things is about journaling is that I got the idea and I got started from it because of my counseling. So I started in counseling when I was 4 or 5. And it was because they noticed they didn't want me to be depressed because my bio dad had died, and they wanted me to be able to process that information. So I was put in counseling for that. And then with just how my life went, I kind of stayed in counseling forever until I was about 17. And then at that point, I started missing counseling appointments because I was running late, and, like, I was just really irresponsible as a teenager. And then my mom was like, look, I keep having to pay these late fees. You're going to start paying for your own counseling. And I was like, counseling is expensive. I'm going to try journaling and taking my vitamins and getting a good sleep schedule. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Because I can't afford counseling. But the years that I was in counseling, I loved it because it just helped me recognize one thing. For those of you who haven't maybe realized yet, I'm an external processor. I have to say everything out loud. Nothing can just be mentally processed internally. I do not do that. I need to untangle the mess of yarn that's in my mind out. Like, I need to take it out of my head, pull it apart, see it laying flat, re-roll and then put it back. Whereas internal processors are able to unravel all of the yarn in their mind and re-roll it and categorize it. And I'm just like, I can't do that. So that was something that counseling taught me, is that I need to like vomit everything out.
You need to say, yeah,
like, everything has to come out. And it needs to be able to come out in an unfiltered way, because that is something that I've also been learning and working on in my 20s, is learning how to filter my thoughts and learning how to monitor what I say, because words can hurt people. And sometimes, and I'm a pretty frank, blunt person most of the time.
Same.
And it's not always a good thing.
In my 30s.
Yeah. I'm like,
in my 30s, I'm like, oh, I realized I shouldn't have said that after I've said it.
Yep. So I've learned that instead of venting or having just one confidant that you like wear out, I like having a journal, because my journal cannot get tired of me. It just can't. So I can say
it can't back chat. Yeah, it don't judge.
Yeah, so that's like one thing I really love, is that I have that safe space to just do whatever I want. And so, and my journal also does include like art. Sometimes I'll draw if I'm feeling extra artsy, craftsy, or I'll like write down lyrics, because I do play the guitar and sing. That's another big coping mechanism for me, was music. So I'll like, write my songs in my journal, but like all sorts of things. It's just my safe space. And it is an off-limits space. That's another thing about it. Not that it's private, and not that me and my husband don't completely talk about everything, because we do, because I'm a very open person. But it gives me that safe space, so that not that this happens, if I'm mad at my husband or he's what's irritating me and I want to put it in my journal, he doesn't later see it and get hurt feelings. So it is a personal space, which he respects. Thankfully, he's like super, super totally gets it, and respects that space. And he also has a journal that I respect, because being married, like, yes, the Bible says you become one flesh and like you become one person, but you still can have your own feelings. And so being able to journal those is super important. So yeah, journaling really helped me. Counseling really helped me. And then my faith also really helped me. And just having that confidant, which for me was my aunt, one of my aunts, my mom's best friend. She wasn't really my aunt, but that's one of those things like Black culture. It's just like everybody's your auntie.
Yeah, your auntie or your uncle. Yeah.
So one of my aunties, one of my fake aunties, my play cousins. No, I'm just kidding. One of my aunties was my real confidant in the beginning, because she was actually, fun fact, she was actually my nanny when I was first adopted. Because when we were first adopted, my mom was still working, so she was my nanny. And I used to tell her all the time, I want to be a nanny. And she'd be like, don't do it. It ain't worth it. You got to deal with bad kids like you. And I was like, I want to be a nanny. So now I'm a nanny. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember I had a nanny.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. So you used to speak to her a lot about, I love that your nanny was your confidant, like the person that you went to, because that's literally what we are for these children, ain't we?
Yeah.
And just having that safe space as well. I've even had it before where sometimes it's difficult when children say, they confide in you and say, don't tell my mom or don't tell my dad. And you're like, if this is, depending on what, like, I never promise a child that I can't say anything. But I always say to them, depending on what you say to me, if it's putting you at risk or harm, I will have to share it with the relevant people. But a lot of the times, luckily, it hasn't been anything. And if I find anything concerning, I will always go to the relevant person. But yeah, so moving on from that, how do you feel like, what advice would you give to people like us, like childcare providers, teachers, anyone that, anyone in the early years, anyone that works with children in general? What are some of the signs that they should look out for sexual abuse or emotional abuse, or children that are going through it? Yeah. And what are some of the signs that you showed that your teachers picked up on?
Yeah, so Sorry,
Do you want me to
that
ask you
like
again?
I heard you, and then it went
Yeah, I
over
know.
my
I saw
head,
that.
and then I was like,
I thought the yarn, take it out, spread it out, put it back in. So, what are some of the signs that we should look out
oh
for
yeah,
as
yeah.
childcare providers?
So I
Love
wanted
that.
to say, that's what I was going to say. That's why it stopped me, because I was like, you had something to say about that. Which is that I did actually end up also taking some children's psychology classes about childhood trauma when I was in college, because I went through it and I wanted to know what my mind looked like, and it now helps me as a nanny. So some of the things that I learned about were watching for children who are shy or introverted. And it's not to say that children can't be introverted, because they're just introverted kids and they're totally normal. My husband, super introverted, always has been. And there's not really anything wrong with him. He's just super introverted. So there are just introverted kids, but kids who are extroverted at first, and then over the course of like the school year or over the course of a few months, they start becoming more introverted. Those are kind of the kids to watch out for, because usually it means they're like retracting into their shell. And you just want to know why. Because it might just be that, like, if it's the years of puberty, it might be that they're feeling awkward because they developed before their friends. But like, if it's not that, then there might be something else going on. So kids who show extroverted traits and then
Behaviors.
become
Yeah, and then
more introverted. Also kids that want to control things, and I say that to mean not like that they're not sharing their toys, but one of the triggers for me, or one of the signs for me, was that kids that are in traumatic experiences can't control a lot of what's going on around them. And so for me, I didn't have control over a lot of my environment and what was happening, but what I could control was what I ate. So at age 11, I became a vegetarian, and I was like, I don't want to eat meat. That was the way I was controlling what went into my body. And yes, I felt bad for the cows, but really I didn't. Like, I just wanted to have some control and change something over myself. So seeing changes that don't necessarily correlate with anything else going on in their life, or just them wanting to control it. It could be a piercing, like if they're getting excessive piercings without permission, it's because they want control over their body or the way that they're looking. If they're like into dyeing their hair and cutting their hair, and like just like extreme shifts from like if they went all their life being a certain way and then all of a sudden they like shift really hard a different way.
In a short space of time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's usually over the course of a short period of time, because it's usually right as something has happened and they don't know how to process it. And so then everything goes crazy. And that's also, side note, not to say that dyeing your hair or cutting your hair or having excessive piercings is a bad thing, because it's not. Some people make a conscious decision to do those things. But just like in young children is what we're talking about, people. So remember that when I'm saying these things, please.
Yeah, I definitely want to add to that once you're done.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other one that I was going to say that I notice a lot is relationships. If they start having multiple relationships with the opposite sex that aren't looking healthy from an outside perspective, because you don't, like, sometimes they'll swing the other way where they feel like this is what they've deserved if it's a physical or sexual abuse, and they'll get in unhealthy relationships really young, and you'll see them being in relationships with people who are possessive or who are controlling or jealous type, and those are unhealthy relationships. And so figuring out why they feel like they want to be in those relationships, helping them to recognize the healthy or unhealthy aspects of the relationship, can help them learn to cope with their trauma.
Definitely. And it's funny because Nanny Kim on the Go has just come in. She's a foster parent. Anna also adoptive mother. She's adopted children. So I'm really happy that she joined. Hi, everyone that's joined in. If you have any questions for Rainey, please do put them in the question box. I wanted to just add to that in terms of signs, just from experience working with children that have gone through trauma. Children that are overly clingy and quite anxious about the littlest things, such as you leaving the room, you taking a call, a lot of paranoia, you taking a call, is that about me? Or, just if you're whispering and, they get a bit paranoid, that's what I've seen in my role as a nanny. Also a lack of self-awareness where the personal space has been abused and taken advantage of. Some children have no sense of self or awareness. So that's something I've picked up on. Overly sexual behavior at a very young age, like inappropriate. How do you know that you're 4? You know, so little things that I've picked up on in terms of that. Adult nature. Children knowing about adult conversations or repeating things back that you know they've overheard or they've seen. And one thing that I wanted to mention, that a lot of people, I wanted to mention it, and please let me know if this is a trigger. I saw a video that was going around recently on social media that I wasn't very happy about. Someone sent it to me, and I said, as a nanny or even just a human, I feel highly disrespected that you're sharing this content, because this is actually child pornography, right? Because what it was the mother and father doing what they do, and the child's run in, but they didn't stop. And so the child is in the room, and I had to stop, and I said, no, I'm not watching that, because from I saw the child run in, I knew what was about to happen. And I said, this is an offense, this is illegal, like you can't be sharing this kind of content. So some people, I know obviously we work with a lot of parents, sometimes parents co-sleep, sometimes children sleep in the same room as the parents. So just be mindful of that, because if your child witnesses that, that is a form of sexual abuse. I want to make that very clear, because I had to have this debate with this person, and the Jamaican in me came out because I just got ignorant, and I was like, listen, I don't play like that. So that is something that needs to be, oh, did you? See, I was not happy about it. I was not happy about it, because I was just looking at that as like, that's not funny to me. That's not funny. And for me, that child needs to be taken out of the household. That's how I'm looking at it. I know some people are like, oh, child, that's a bit extreme. No, because why? That's your parents, and they think it's okay to keep doing. No. So just even showing images of a sexual nature to underage children is a crime. Yeah, it's illegal. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Not anyone watching this is going to do that.
No, I think as you were saying about the different symptom signs that you've been talking about, I have the words, the different signs that you've been talking about, mentally triggered for me that a reminder that I actually have a article out about sexual abuse, child abuse. It's specifically child abuse. It's on my website, ososimply.com. I'll actually leave a link in my bio for it. That specific blog, I'll go and link it to my link tree after this. But I'll type. So
some people saying it froze and they missed it. I'm not sure what they missed, so you have to let me know what you missed, and I'll try and repeat it.
Yikes! But yeah, that's the website. But I'll link it in my link tree. But I did just think about the fact that I have an article that talks about child abuse, and it does list more signs of child abuse and how you can see it, and just what you can do if you do start noticing it, because that's the other important piece, is like acting on what you are seeing.
Yeah, and even though we're on the topic of talking about abuse, there also is domestic violence. Children that experience domestic violence as well, and that is also can be triggering for trauma. For me, I experienced domestic violence of a friend of a family. I saw her be attacked by her partner when I was 12, and that to me was really what's the word? I don't want to get emotional. That was very, for me, trauma. So now I have a thing for, I think that's why I have this thing for helping people all the time. Or like if I see any kind of people flinch or anything, like I get a bit like, what's going on? Like it triggers something, right? So for me, I'm so anal about domestic violence. More so because I experienced physical abuse when I was younger, but it wasn't like over a period of time. It was just one time. My mom don't play. I'll say that. And it was just the one time, and I told my mom, and it went down. And that was from someone that my mom trusts at the time. And it happened to me at 4. And that's something that, for me, I will never forget. It's my only childhood memory. Like, the only memory I have of 4 onwards is that memory, right? But my thing is, that's why I feel like I'm very, very, when it comes to domestic violence, that's more not to say that, other abuse is not as bad, and I'm not trying to excuse that, but for me, it's a big thing, like with me being 12 and then, that happening. And obviously everyone goes through different types of trauma. I've had other trauma and stuff, but I feel like the same with you, like counseling really, really helped me to understand it, speak about it. So I think a few people were saying, didn't parents have...
They're figuring it out together, what they missed.
Yeah.
Some didn't miss it, and so they're filling in the other
all
people.
Right, some did. All right, cool. All right, you don't have the conversation. I don't want to repeat it before we get cut off. But yeah, so I understand. For me, it's something that, like you said, you're very... my mind's gone. You're very in touch with child psychology, and I think that's where mine stems from, because I'm very big on anthropology, the study of humans. Why do people do what they do? Why do they think the way that they do? What triggers someone to do this? Like, what kind of mindset? How does their brain work? What signals go? Like, I'm a bit nerdy like that. When it comes to my kids, think a lot, and I'm always with them, but it's so important to watch that. Definitely. And not to say that children that flinch, are going through anything, but that to me is a trigger. Like, if I'm getting close to Chande, and I'm like, whoa, my head stops ringing, like, what's going on here? So yeah, I can understand that in that sense.
And I think too, because earlier you were saying not that some are worse than others or whatever, but I think different nannies, especially, but like, because we're talking about nannies, but caregivers in general, like, they do have different triggers. Like, I tend to, yes, I'm aware of all of the signs and like have them running in the back of my head while I'm going to work, because, you check for those things. But I tend to notice more, or I'm more alert to and more reactive to signs of suicidal teens and signs of sexually abused babies, or like super young children. Those are the two that for me, I'm more on edge. I'm more alert to, like, my hair stand on end more with that. Not to say that I'm not looking for all of them, but because of my experiences, my personal experiences, what I've seen, what I know, those are the ones that I'm more alert to. Versus you, it's domestic violence because you had that experience with your friend. And so I think it does depend on the nanny for what they're going to be watching for, or what they're going to be looking for.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the thing. So in terms of our role being in the home, a lot of us work for quite a lot of high profile families. Obviously, we have to sign NDAs. Let me tell you why we got to sign NDAs, because, some things go on in those households, and it's very difficult when you're working for a public figure and there's safeguarding issues. It gets very techie, very, very techie, because if you sign an NDA, what do you do, right? What do you do? And be honest, in that, I've had people come to me and ask me that, and in that, the advice that I give is always if the child is at harm, you speak. If that child is at risk of being at harm, you go to you don't go to anyone, you go to the relevant people, and you should know who your safeguarding leads. As for us as nannies, it depends on what, here in the UK, I don't know what it's like in America, but it depends on what borough you live in. There's a different team, like a multi-agency team. And we have things like the NSPC, we have Ofsted, we have, the different teams in different boroughs. We have boroughs, I think you guys have states, or I don't know.
I think a borough is the same as like a city? Or is it like a county? Is it like multiple cities?
Yeah, so a borough is like, face it, to be this big borough, and then there's different areas in the borough. I don't know what that is in America.
I think that might be a county. Like, because there are multiple cities in a county, but then a county, there are multiple counties in a state.
Yeah, That's what it is then.
Okay,
It's
a
a
county.
county.
Yeah.
So we have different towns. So we call it different areas within a borough. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Look at this language barrier. We're working. So if I'm working in Southwark Borough, or I'm working in Lambeth, or I'm working in Wandsworth, they all have different um, safeguarding leads. They all have different ways um, to report a concern and things like that. Now, if it's an organization like a nursery, or like you would call that a daycare or something like that, I think that's the equivalent.
Yeah.
Then there would be a body, a governing body, which is called Ofsted here. So I'm not sure what it would be in America, but there's different ways. And this is why I think later on, I've got a live that's going to be about safeguarding. I'm going to have a social worker on with me, and a very good friend of mine. And we are going to talk about the different ways that you can obviously spot these things, and how to, if you don't know, a lot of nannies don't know how to report it, and the way, like what's the word? The system that you need to go through to make sure that you're, making sure these children are not at risk. So yeah, I just feel like for me, here in the UK, we have our setup, but what is it like in America? Like, how does it work? Because you mentioned that you did counselling from 4, but you went through things after that. So you wasn't telling your counsellor what you was going through.
No, so
Right.
part of it was that I wasn't telling my counselor, because like I said before, children that are being raised in their house and not really experiencing other friends' houses, they think that what they're doing is normal. So you don't necessarily think that it's something to mention, because that's just modern day life. But we do have different systems in place. So like we do have counseling. We have counseling right in the schools. So if a teacher notices something, they can call in the counselor, and the kid can have time with their counselor during lunch or during class time or whatever, to kind of just keep it within the school. Because a lot of times, in my experience, a lot of times if there is something that comes up while they're still school aged, they'll keep it in the school at first to kind of figure out what's going on and clarify things before alerting the parents that something has been found out. Once they have enough information to kind of take the information where it needs to go to get the kid into a safe space, to find that information out, they won't yet tell the parents that the kid is even in counseling sometimes, in the schools. So that happens. But also we do have social workers. We do have different like child abuse hotlines and websites where you can just like straight up report people. We do have child protective services, where you can literally, like, a random neighbor can call CPS, Child Protective Services, on you if they see you like hit your child too hard, and Child Protective Services will show up and be like, what's going on? I had a report that you're abusing your child. So
same here.
So there's that. But yeah, there's different levels for sure. I kind of, you had mentioned that the kids finding you as like a safe space, and that you never promise them that what they tell you won't leave you. I will say that that's one thing as a caregiver that I do struggle with, because as someone who went through childhood trauma, that is one of the things that I wanted, I needed, was someone that was willing to risk the, like, not legality, but the like technical side of things to just give me that safe space that I needed. So I did, thankfully I'm old, according to my little brother, but I'm old enough now that this teacher would never get in trouble for it. But I did have 2 teachers that did pretty much lay their jobs on the line, because I completely confided in them, 100% confided in them, and they never told my parents what I was telling them. So there was some, like, they should have done, because that was in their job, and like their job was on the line because they didn't do what they should have done, but it was because it was for my safety that they weren't. And so I did have that experience. So as a nanny, I do kind of say, like, if the child, I don't promise, because promise is a really strong thing, especially a pinky promise. But I do give them that safety where what we talk about is between us. What you say to me is between us. Unless we talk about it and we agree that we need to take it somewhere else. Because I do want them to still feel in control if we ever do have to tell their parents something. And I had that with my last nanny family. I had a baby and then their 16-year-old daughter. And the daughter, sometimes, she's 16. She would get into some stuff at school or like fail a test or whatever. But she would come home and just unload on me. And I was like, girl, I'll be your bestie. Come sit on the couch with me. We can chat. And she would totally unload on me. And it would be sometimes where I'd be like, yeah, your parents would probably want to know that. But is it going to be like a do or die situation? No. Like, you'll either tell them eventually
Was she at risk or at harm?
No. And
because
so
here in the UK, okay, then it don't.
Yeah, and so that's the
relate.
thing is like, but one time she did do something, and it wasn't. She wasn't really at risk, but she was doing something that was risky. And so I did say, I think that it's really important that you tell your mom. And if you don't want to tell her face to face, then maybe you write her a note or, you text her or something, but you do need to tell her. And, I think it's a good idea. And thankfully she said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'm going to tell her. But if she wouldn't have, then that would have been the point where I said, okay, but if you don't do it within 3 days, then I'm going to. So like I do want to allow them time to still have that control, but then also know that it's still not okay. So especially with older kids, like having that trust there, and letting them make that decision themselves. So yeah,
that's really good because here in the UK, there's been so many cases where children have been, they've died or been murdered, and a lot of when the investigation happens after the child has passed away, there's been loads of kind of signs that have been missed, where it's like if that social worker just reported this, or if they did that check again, like there was a very big case here called Baby P, and what he was getting abused by his mom and his mom's boyfriend, and they were putting like smearing chocolate on his face and things like that, and just making it look like he's eaten food and got messy. So when the social workers were going to see him, they would like say, oh yeah, he had like food on his face, but really they were like masking the bruises and stuff, and there was like different excuses for his marks on his body, but it wasn't followed up, right? So in the end, he passed, and he was murdered. Let's be honest, that's what they did. Evil people, and yeah, so that was a big deal. There was another one called Victoria, I think it's Klimbe. I'm probably not saying her name right, so sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Klimbe or Klimbe, her name was, and she was a little black girl. The other baby was a little white boy, and they were really young. And these were two really big cases in the UK that had to change policies and procedures within the UK on children that are going through these kind of things and how it gets reported and our duty of care and things like that. So yeah, is there anything else you wanted to touch upon? Please do let me know, because I know you had a few notes. I'm going to go to the comments quickly. Nanny Kim on the Go said, if a nanny wants to get a certification, I said that's so Jamaican, to become a mandated reporting trained person, there is a certification that social workers have here. Oh, so cool. You can take the certification online and it takes you through signs and symptoms of abuse, and take a class and test. It takes 30 minutes. Oh, that's really good. Kimmy Kim, that's probably something that you might want to put on your page for nannies. But that's in America, so I don't know if that is the same for the UK nannies here, but there's loads of courses we can do. And Baby P story is so sad. Yeah, so Kalisha is aware. She's in Scotland, so she must have heard about it. But like I said, is there anything on your notes that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, last thing.
Go ahead. It's fine.
I'm like, yes. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was just one of my favorite, no, I did not ask them and I did not tell them, but I'm going to promote them. One of my favorite Instagram accounts is Big Little Feelings. They're on Instagram at Big Little Feelings. And they are two moms that have a bunch of toddlers. No, I'm just kidding. I think one of them has two toddlers and one has a baby. But but they are hilarious gals, and they, on their page, emphasize the importance of letting little kids have their feelings and letting them voice their feelings and opinions, and not belittling them as adults. And I think that's super important when you're talking about childhood trauma and recognizing it. So starting at an early age, when a child has what's that word?
Meltdown.
Yeah, like a meltdown. And when they have that meltdown and when they have those big feelings come out, those big anger bursts or tantrums where they're just bawling for no reason or whatever, well, it seems like no reason because we don't know the reason. But when they have those moments, talking to them and helping them find the words to express themselves, helping them to cope with those feelings is so important because you want them to be able to handle their emotions. And by handle, I do not mean stuff down in themselves. You want them to be able to communicate what they need to communicate and work through their feelings and thoughts, even as little people, because those little people will grow up into big people. So
and be resilient.
Yeah, and we need them to be able to communicate those feelings. So
can you put them in the comments?
Yeah, let me put them right in.
They're gonna be like, oh, who mentioned that in the live?
I love them. I was telling one of my friends about them because, wait, let me make sure I'm spelling this.
I love that every time you're on here, you're promoting someone else, not yourself.
I know. But I love
to show how selfless you are.
I love them. I was just telling someone else about them because this is so important. And honestly, they have a toddler course that they're always talking about that, like, I want to take. And I don't even have any toddlers of my own, but I want to take this class because it just seems so good. Because they have like different, like kind of step-by-step guides to help you get through big moments. And like they talk about the importance of preparing children for the next event or what's going to happen so that they feel in control, because you want to give kids control and you want to give them options and choices.
And choices. Woo!
Like natural consequences, but like options and choices and being able to communicate is super important for kids. And it'll really help, because then building that relationship as a nanny or a caregiver, a mom, Ashley, being that person for your little ones, you will be their confidant. So that if something ever happens or if something ever comes up, even if it's someone that you know and that they know you trust, if something happens with that person, they still come to you and they still feel comfortable and safe coming to you because they know how to communicate and you were the one that taught them how. And so they'll feel proud to be able to show you what they can do with what you taught them. I just think it's so important, giving kids options and making them feel heard and felt, and especially when it comes to their bodies, kind of, you know, making sure that they know that while rejecting hugs and kisses for friends and family might hurt their feelings, you can give them an alternative, like a high five instead, if you're not feeling like you want to be hugged or kissed. Like, give them an alternative, and helping the kid be able to express that, then it gives them a sense of control over what's happening in their bodies, or to their bodies. And the same with their communication, just like giving them that voice and really preparing them to become great people.
Definitely. That I would definitely love that whole notion. And I wanted to add to that. When I was doing my master's, one of the things that I was like learning about, which I knew before, but it was good because this is understand the theory behind it, was children being agencies over their own play, over their own bodies, over, you know, their own life. And one of the things was just even simple things. How many times does an adult hug a child without asking for consent? Like, I always ask children, can I have a hug, or can I always ask them. If they say no, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, but you often find, especially even like me being Jamaican and our culture, it's like, your child's rude. Your child's got no manners. Like, you know, just little bit. You know, this picnic, like, you know, this picnic is rude, got no manners, you know, little things. And, you know, there is manners. You go into someone's house, you say hello and stuff like that. But, like, just not wanting someone to hug you or touch you. And I remember as well, like, what you mentioned something earlier about men, and just not wanting them to touch you and stuff like that. For me, for a very long time, after seeing the domestic violence incident, I think that built up a lot of mistrust for men, for me. So I was very like, I hate men. Like I was very much a teenager, like, boys, if you touch me, I'll hit you. Or I was very like angry in that sense when it came to men. Like I was very, I'm never going to make a man violate me. I'm never going to, you know, and I feel it kind of went a bit into my adult life as well, where I've got this thing now where I don't like feeling, like I have a problem with authority a little bit. I'm working on it, don't worry. And I've been working on it for years, but I think that a lot of things when I had my counselling, and my counselling was for grief counselling, but it triggered quite a lot of other stuff that I noticed that, oh, I hadn't even dealt with this or thought I needed to deal with it. But my counsellor did say at one point, do you have an issue with men? And I was like, do you think so? She's like, because you speak about women so positively. But when you talk about men, it's just a bit. And I said, you know what? I'm not conscious of it. But she goes, you mentioned a lot of, and she said she understands because through my life, I've been disappointed a lot by men. So she was saying that maybe that kind of triggered from the incident when I was 4, or, you know, when I was 12 and I saw that. And it's kind of festered a little bit, but I'm not aware of it, if that makes sense. So that made me really look at it and be like, oh, maybe that is true, you know. So
yeah,
I think it's really important in overcoming childhood trauma. Is not, when I say overcoming, I want you to address it and probably acknowledge certain things that need to be worked on, and how detrimental it is if you allow that to fester into your adult life. My goodness, Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people I've seen as adults, and I'm like, oh, that's the issue from your childhood. And, you know, those 0 to 5 years, those early years, and that's why my master's was in early years, because it's so imperative that year is they don't experience trauma at all in general, but when they experience it between 0 and 5, it really can, like, lifetime wise, if you don't deal with that can bring up some other issues in relationships, in work relationships, in all types of relationships in your life. Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah.
Do you?
I think that's true. And I think that's why it's just super important to really create a nurturing environment for our littles, like, just so that they know that they're loved and that they can have feelings and have opinions and make mistakes, and they will still be loved, especially in those early learning years where they're kind of figuring things out for the first time. And also, I'm seeing a lot of comments in here kind of like, ditto, yeah, me girl, Hispanic culture too, about, you know, that rude kid didn't give me no hug.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I love the alternative. I was literally just having this conversation with my little cousin last night, who, for those of you who don't know, we are in the same family compound, and that is our COVID circle, so it's okay. But me and her go snowboarding together because we're in the same bubble. And last night on the way home from snowboarding, we were having this conversation about kids and like how we teach them to say no. Because right now she's a nanny, and she's working with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And the 3-year-old, she makes sure to always ask, "Can I give you a hug?" And if he says no, she goes, "Okay, how about a high five?" And then he'll usually say yes to that. So now, like, that was how they started their relationship. And so now she'll say, "Can I have a hug?" And he'll go for a high five, like ready for one. And so now they have that way to communicate with each other. And I think that's so important to give our kid that option, because, like, it's true in Black culture and Hispanic culture, it's like, you better give your auntie or your grandma a kiss or a hug. Like, you don't just leave them hanging, you know, for physical affection. But giving the kids that option of, like, do you want to give them a hug or a kiss? Or do you want to give them a hug or high five? Like, and then the kid will realize,
Let them
okay,
decide.
I don't need to completely ignore this person, but I have options of what I'm comfortable doing. Or I can just give them a smile and tell them I love them, or tell them I like their hair, or whatever. But, like, if it's not a physical, because not everyone's love language is physical either. Not everyone is into physical touch. A lot of people are into spoken language, and it might be the kid's love language is, I'd rather tell them something nice about them than have them touch me. Like, I don't want to be touched. So that's an option. So yeah, I just think that's super important to remember, is to give the kids options.
Amazing. I just want to say thank you so much, because we was like, we're going to have a quick live. We've been on here an hour and a half, girl.
I know.
Oh, Lord, child, but this has been a good one. Ooh, time flies when you're having fun. I hope you're feeling a little bit better because I know when you first started, your energy was a bit. I could feel it. It was a
Wonky.
bit.
Yeah. It was
It was a
it
bit
was bad.
low.
I feel better today. I'm coming out of it. I think just chatting with someone was nice. But I
Yeah,
do just have like a lot of things that are kind of stressing me out, like just life
yeah,
things, phone died,
yeah.
had to get a new one, laptop just broke. I'm just like, could one more thing go wrong?
You wrong, yeah, yeah. I had a day like that yesterday. I actually wanted to talk. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. It's funny enough. Trauma is something that you will continuously experience throughout life, right? I want people to know that. Yesterday, I saw something very traumatic, and I really struggled to sleep last night. Um, and I shared it on my WhatsApp for my family, but I didn't share it on my social media. One, I feel like some people can be quite judgmental on social media, and I'm the type of person, I can be very feisty. I will cuss out your wrath. So I'm like, I'm not even in the mood to share this if someone says something that is going to trigger me because I will forget myself, right? So it was, I was just going home from work as usual, and I saw a policeman, and I don't know if it was a criminal or if it was someone, I don't know. From what I got, this person was being chased by police and they tried to jump off like how can I say, it's like a platform in a train station but jump off the bridge, right? But the police was man was holding this man, and then they both fell, and I just was like, I didn't know what to do because I've never seen anything like that. And when the drop that they fell, I'm just like, I just was up all night, like, are they alive? Are they okay? Are they, and I'm just like, the fact that we're talking about trauma now is something, but I want people to know that it's not just childhood trauma. People experience it in adult life. And I feel like, I personally was like, for a while, I've been wanting to get back into counseling. And I was like, I feel that was like a sign that I need to, because I really struggled with that. And I don't know, I feel like for me, I don't know if it was like, sometimes this is what happens to me when I procrastinate with things that I'm meant to do. I start getting signs from the universe, like, and I feel like, why did I witness that? And then I started to like overthink and da, 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 da. So sorry, I had to share that because that's a bit of trauma that I experienced yesterday, and even today my mind was all on it, and I have to pass that station every day. So it was just, that you
Yeah.
always see that. So I don't even know how you went through what you went through and still managed to continue.
Everyone's
You
different.
know,
Yeah. I
very resilient.
genuinely think everyone is different. I think everyone copes differently with different things. Because, like, everyone, that's the other thing about social media is, and that's another reason why I wanted to do this live, is because on social media, yeah, I look amazing. Don't get me wrong. 24, runs her own business. Like, yeah, I look great. And I do put on makeup and I do prepare for these live, for going live, and for like, I hyped
Mm.
myself up. I was on a video call before we did this live with one of my friends. Like, okay, girl, help me get pumped for this because I'm not feeling it today, but we're doing it today. And
Yeah.
it's like, I, put my best face on for Instagram and for social media. And not that I always try to, but also like, there's a level of real that I want to see on Instagram and that I put on Instagram, but there's also a level of real that, like, that would just be depressing. Like, let's be real. Nobody wants to see that. Like, and
Yeah.
I don't even want to
Yeah.
see that of my own self. So why would I share that with
Yeah.
others? And,
Yeah.
and it's not because I don't think people won't be understanding or loving, but just Instagram is a highlight. Instagram and social
Yes.
media is a
Highlight
highlight.
reel.
And
Yeah.
it's so important to remember that because, like, yeah, I seem really well balanced as a little human being over here, but I'm also like, I do have really bad days. I do have really low
Mm.
days. If I turn this camera around, you would see what a disaster my house is right now because I haven't wanted to clean. And my husband is cool with that, thankfully,
Mm.
because it's a mess. Like, I can't step without stepping on dirty clothes on the floor right now. And like,
Mm.
I've been looking over there just thinking, oh my gosh, that's a big load of laundry sitting on my bed that I need to fold this whole live. So
That's
there's,
me looking at my washing.
I know. So I'm like, there's a whole other side of life that you just don't see on social media. And that's a part of coping with trauma, is just knowing there will be good and bad days and doing what you can on good days, knowing that the bad days will come because they will.
Yes.
So just take advantage of your good days and do things productive And then do things you enjoy on your good days. Because on your bad days, even the things that you do enjoy doing normally, you may not enjoy doing. So just take full advantage
Yeah.
of your good days. That's like my last pro tip. Take advantage of your
I was
good
going to
days.
ask you, is there anything you want to leave us out with? But I think that was an amazing way
Yeah.
to sum it all up. And for me, I know everyone else is going to be able to speak and agree. I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to do this. That is so brave of you, so inspiring. And thank you so much for continuing to want to do it and not backing out, because really and truly, you could have just said to me, Shah, I'm really not feeling it. And I would have been absolutely fine with that. Trust me. To be honest, I even prepared for every live that I do. I prepare just in case. And I think that's just a coping mechanism for being let down a lot. But I just, not to say you would ever do that to me, or to yourself, but I always just prepare for the unexpected. I try to anyway. So I did prepare, and I was like, I'm not going to need this. Like, we're going to be okay. And so I'm very happy that you shared your story. I just like to ask people to give the purple love heart, but they've already done it. I just want to go through the comments because I've seen some beautiful comments about you. Thank you for being real. Buffalo Taba, thank you so much. You've been here from the beginning and you've stayed the whole time. So I appreciate you for giving us your time. Thank you so much for staying. I hope you found it valuable. And you, Kalisha, I love you to bits. You already know that. She's like my ride or die girl from Scotland. And the thing is, it's always, I saw a meme the other day. It said, it's strangers on the internet that are always your biggest fans. Listen, let me tell you something. See, Kalisha, that's my I'll ride for her. Listen, 100% got to do the most of your good days. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. See those purple love hearts? There you go. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you all. Thank you, parenting with perspective. I can't even say the word. Perspectable. I can't say the word. Thank you for coming in. You was mentioned earlier. Just to say that your page is great and people should follow you. So I will be following you after this. Bliss Morgan said, yes, always a good idea to have a backup plan, always. Thank you. Thank you, Rainey. Love you, hon. Oh, look, see. Thank you.
Everybody's being so sweet.
Guys, go follow. Wait, let the people know where they can find you, what services are you offering. Girl, promote yourself, girl.
Okay. First of all, DM me. Slip into those DMs. I usually say you can email me on my contact page on osasimply.com. But I will say just slip into the DMs because my laptop is broken, so I'm a little slow replying to those emails right now. But DMs, those are on my phone.
OS Simply. So OSSIMPLY. This is for the people watching on the replay. Make sure you guys comment. Let us know what you think. So they can find you. What's your website? Tell us your website.
OhSoSimply.com. OHSO Simply. SIMPLY.com. And Shada, if you tag me in the replay, then you guys can go right over to my Instagram bio, and there's a link tree. It has all the tidbits that you'll need to click on to find out more about me, to sign up for my nanny mentoring sessions, which I do actually go over. First of all, I go over literally anything from how to post on Instagram. Someone messaged me asking how I get my videos to look the way that they do on Instagram, which was super sweet. So we did that during our nanny mentoring session. But I talk about anything about starting a business. I'm going to have a tax with me video coming out soon. And which I'm like not looking forward to filming, but taxes. But I also go over different things to look for in your kids. We could talk more about how to nanny if you have childhood trauma, if that's something that you want to talk about. If you're looking for a random confidant who's not going to judge you, I can be that person. So just reach out to me for whatever you need. Otherwise, stay tuned. I post on Saturdays, and so I'll be reposting this live replay.
Do it the way that you do it, because I everyone that I do live just keep saying, Sean, I don't know how to do this. Instagram's not letting me. So I might have to just send them your way, because you know how to repost stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. Yeah. I just know that I come on live and I press send and it goes through. So
yeah, I won't tell anyone on this replay. You'll have to
free. You have to book. Pay your good money, yeah, because like people got bills to pay.
That's also something. I did recently start doing a free 15-minute nanny mentoring session just to get you started, because a lot of people are hesitant about mentoring because they don't know what the session is going to feel like. So if you're one of
Yeah.
those people who's nervous, yeah, my mentoring session, 15 minutes is free. And then after that, it does cost money, but we can definitely get you
Yeah.
scheduled.
It's been amazing. Thank you. Lovely to connect with you both. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Rainey, you're amazing. I want you to stay on down here for
Yeah.
me because I want to have a quick chat with you after. But thank you, everyone. I'm going to post this. Please make sure you share it as much as possible. And if you know anyone that could benefit from anything from what we said, because we had hella gems in this, please feel free to share it and let them know about Also Simply and Nanny Shahs. All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you guys here again this Saturday. So until then, bye, guys.